The Great Depression taught survival, not textbook wisdom, but hard-earned habits. Today, uncertainty isn't like that of the 1930s, but economic stress and disconnection are real. The quiet rules our grandparents lived by, they can still save us. Let's unpack them. Resourcefulness over convenience. If you needed something during the Depression, you didn't go out and buy it. You figured out how to make it, borrow it, or do without. This became part of everyday culture. A broken chair would not be seen as trash. It would have been seen as a repair challenge. Empty flour sacks were sewn into dresses. Bacon grease was saved for cooking. Even simple buttons were picked and collected from worn outfits. Nothing was wasted, not time, not food, not any kind of potential. Today we live in a culture of replacements. A torn shirt goes in the bin. A slightly outdated phone gets swapped for the newest model. But that Depression-era instinct to repurpose and rethink is more than being thrifty. It's creative and resourceful. It teaches us to see value where others see scrap. And in an age of rising costs and endless waste that is killing the environment, it's a skill we desperately need. Community is survival. During the Great Depression, the most valuable asset you had wasn't money, it was your neighbor. When government aid wasn't enough and jobs disappeared, people turned to each other. The formal value of money had gone down the drain, and thus it was up to the people to create new forms of value. People started bartering goods, trading skills, and even trading time. An action performed for someone could be traded for a favor from them later down the week, or a sack of apples could be traded for a chicken. It all depended on who needed what. Backyard gardens were shared. Families doubled up in small homes. Towns held socials, potlucks, and barn raisings. Many of these things are bonuses in today's society, things that people participate in as extra activities outside of their work or family. But in those days, they were essential to survival because being disconnected from the community was a matter of life and death, quite literally. It was a peak form of mutual aid, a collective understanding that if one of us sinks, we all do. Compare that to today's world where loneliness is at record highs and neighborhoods are often strangers to one another. The Depression taught us a lesson modern life has made easy to forget. Humans are social survivalists. Building community is actually a great backup plan. It's not just a feel-good act. It's how we heal and grow, especially when the systems around us betray us. Hard work and humility. Work during the Depression was never taken for granted. A man might stand in line for hours for a single day's pay. A woman might work 3 jobs to keep her children fed. There was no room for ego, only determination. But unlike today's grind culture, where work is often performed for status or performance metrics, work back then was about survival and service. You did what had to be done, quietly, without applause. That attitude, humble grit, is something we need to relearn. Because while technology promises shortcuts and passive income, life still demands effort. The Depression generation didn't ask whether work was their passion.
And I think we instill that in our children too. They all know how to work. And I don't begrudge it at all because
They asked if it fed the family, and somehow that clarity brought purpose. Financial caution and simplicity. Debt was a dirty word.
The whole financial system quakes and totters.
People bought what they could afford and only what they needed. Saving was also a habit because many were not sure of next month's income. People kept money hidden under floorboards or inside mattresses because banks were no longer functional. When every penny counted, budgeting became a central part of everyone's life. Today, we live in a buy now, pay later world. Credit cards, subscriptions, impulse buys. Depression wisdom pushes back with one question: do you need it or do you just want it? Living simply was about security more than sacrifice. When you spend less than you make, when you save for hard times before they arrive, you gain peace of mind, a rare and powerful form of wealth. Make it, mend it, or do without it. The DIY trend of today was the lived reality of almost all people during the Great Depression. It was there out of necessity and not as a hobby. If your shoes had holes, you patched them. If your table wobbled, you fixed it. And if you couldn't afford meat that week, you made cabbage soup or stretched beans and potatoes into a meal that could feed a family of 6. This wasn't seen as deprivation, it was a source of pride. Knowing how to can tomatoes, darn socks, or build chicken coops was about being smart more than rustic. Self-sufficiency was respected. In contrast, many today have never used a sewing needle or grown a vegetable. But when the supply chain breaks down or inflation bites into your grocery bill, Depression-era skills become survival tools. Learning to cook, fix, and grow are some of life's skills that come in handy no matter who you are or where you are. Emotional strength in silence. Perhaps the strongest form of resilience that people showed during the Great Depression was psychological resilience, because everything else comes later. If you're not mentally prepared to take on the worst, no amount of skill or technique can help you. Entire families had lost homes. Fathers lost jobs. Children went to bed hungry. And yet, you rarely heard them complain. The pain was real, but the response was quiet endurance. After all, what else could they do? They didn't have therapists or wellness apps, but they had emotional discipline and the ability to carry sorrow without letting it define them. And most importantly, they resorted back to communal living to find solace. Now, this doesn't mean they didn't struggle with mental health. Many did, but it does remind us that emotional resilience isn't always loud. Sometimes it's getting up every day and doing the next right thing. It's choosing dignity in the face of despair. In today's age of instant venting and digital outrage, there's something deeply powerful about learning to sit with hardship and keep going anyway. Finding joy in the little things. When you have little, you learn to treasure what you have. A family gathered around a homemade radio. A game played with buttons or marbles. Stories by candlelight. Music on the front porch. Laughter shared over soup and biscuits. These were the lifelines of the people at that time, little things that brought great joy. That ability to extract joy from simplicity is vanishing in today's screen-glutted world. But the truth is, joy doesn't live in abundance, it lives in presence and in being mindful of what you have at hand. The Depression generation understood that you don't need much to be rich in what truly matters. Faith, hope, and legacy. Even when the banks collapsed, the crops failed, and the skies turned black with dust, many Depression-era families held fast to something bigger than themselves, faith in all its forms. Faith in God, faith in each other, faith that tomorrow might somehow be better. This kind of faith wasn't naive. It was earned and noble. It was built on small acts of kindness, shared sacrifice, and the knowledge that even the worst seasons eventually pass. Their work went beyond rebuilding structures or jump-starting economies. They reignited a belief in decency, in progress, and in the resilience of those who refused to surrender. More than anything, they handed down that belief, not by what they said, but by how they lived. Their legacy for us. The wisdom of the Great Depression generation isn't locked away in museums or faded family albums. It lives on in the stories of patched clothes and rationed meals, in the skills passed down through hands that knew how to grow food, mend tools, and stretch every dollar. It's in the mindset that values repair over replacement and cooperation over competition. It's interesting to see that some of the most progressive values of today, such as ethical consumption and minimizing waste, were once the survival mechanisms of the most downtrodden. It really shows the privileges of the time we are living in. In a world shaken by inflation, loneliness, and digital overload, their legacy is a roadmap. They showed us that hardship, while painful, can sharpen character and reveal what truly matters. So, maybe it's time we listen to the quiet strength of a generation that endured more than most of us can imagine and came out wiser, not just worn. If you found meaning in this video, give it a like and subscribe for more stories from American history that will inspire resilience, and tap the bell so you don't miss what's next. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.